I'm pretty excited about this. It's been kind of a long time in the making. Also, we're just getting prepared and set up and organized for our second anniversary Founders Day Festival, which is on the 27th through the 29th, or 26th through the 28th.
I'm glad you know the dates. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're gonna have, of course, a show at the end of that on the 28th, and giving away maybe $1,000+ worth of prizes. So everybody should make sure and tune in for that. Miss Furied Fate, how are you today?
I'm good. I am excited to talk to our guests tonight.
Very good. Well, then let's get to it. Our guest this evening is Lysa Penrose. How are you today,
It's
Lysa?
me.
Yay!
Hi, everyone.
And since you are here, why don't you tell everybody who you are, for those that might not know in the channel, what you do and why we asked you to come to the show tonight.
Yeah, well, I do a whole bunch of things within the D&D community. I'm probably best known as the community manager for Dungeon Masters Guild, also the D&D Adventurers League. I'm the social media manager for Dungeons and Dragons, and I have my own podcast about women and tabletop RPGs called Behold Her Pod.
Ooh,
And
say the name of that
and
again?
more. Behold Her Podcast.
Behold space her space podcast.
Yeah.
We're gonna maybe shout that out a few more times too. That's very awesome. Well, welcome to you. Guys, if you have in the chat, if you have questions for Lysa or for us, just type them in the chat and we'll try to get to those as soon as we can. But we've got a couple here that we prepared to ask you. Leroon, why don't you start with this first one here?
Okay. Adventures League. So you started off with that. You took over for Robert Aducci. Is that right?
Yeah, Robert Ducci left the role, and they recruited me.
Okay. And are you still working with Alan?
I am. So Alan has moved from the community manager role over to the resource role. We kind of at the beginning of the year did a shuffle, but my co-community manager is lovely Amy Linda Zora.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
but we
just
still work closely with Alan.
Okay, great.
So does that mean that you still have your hand in like what the seasons are and what some of the material might be, or what exactly would you be doing with Adventures League at this point?
Yeah, so I guess all of the administrators do share some parts of the job. So if there's like changes to rules, Chris Lindsay does try to get everybody's input. But there are three different types of administrators. There's content, and they are the primary driving forces of the adventures for each new season and getting those developed and all the CCC content, community created content you see in the Adventurers League section. There are the resource administrators, and if you are an event organizer or you have or a convention organizer, you're probably going to them to ask questions, get support, get premieres, that sort of thing. And then the community managers are the folks who just talk about everything going on in Adventurers League, make sure things are being communicated between the team and the community. And just generally celebrating things, making discussions happen. And that's what Amy and my focus is.
Got it. Really cool. I didn't even really kind of understand how all that worked. So it's nice to know a little behind the scenes stuff there. And their Adventures League's been going since the beginning of 5th edition, right, in 2014.
Correct. I mean, there has been organized play before, but Adventurers League is 5e organized
right,
play.
Yeah. The 4e one, I forget what that was called, but I was doing that. I went at a local game store and did that too. Cool. So the main reason that we wanted to ask you on the show was to talk about DM's Guild, which I am heavily involved in. And most of the people that watch this channel know about what I do at DM's Guild, which is just that I'm one of the, hundreds or thousands of creators on that particular site, which is a division of One Bookshelf, Drive Through RPGs, the biggest version of that. But what exactly is your job at DM's Guild, and what do you do there as a community manager?
Yeah, so my title is community manager, and what folks probably see the most is that I'm managing the social media pages, when people have questions and they tweet them or they post them in our Facebook group. I am the one answering those, and I'm letting creators especially know what features are coming up. But behind the scenes, I'm also just basically the manager of the website. So any DMs Guild creator who emails in a question, that goes to me. Reported titles go through me. I spend a lot of time every day just answering inquiries with creators, or if I notice someone doesn't have, like the Dungeon Masters Guild on the cover, I go through all the new titles and I email people and ask them to fix it so I don't have to take their titles down, that sort of thing. And then also for developing new features, or if you're familiar with Dungeon Masters Guild and our sister site, DriveThruRPG, publishers on DriveThruRPG have a whole host of features that aren't open to community creators. So I also sort of manage looking at and prioritizing those features and figuring out what we can port over to Dungeon Masters Guild for creators. So there's sort of like a project management side to my role as well.
Yeah, and I particularly was happy as of recently when they opened up the bundle functionality, because we've all been screaming about that for 3 years, since the thing started in 2016, and we finally got it, and it's super awesome. And it's cool to hear you say that you are scrutinizing the DriveThruRPG backend to see what you can port over to DM's Guild, because some of that stuff that they have, I don't really, I have like 5 or 6 titles on DriveThru, but my focus is DM's Guild, right? So I get jealous. I go in the DriveThruRPG backend and I'm like, ooh, I wish we had all of this, because you can email your customers and do all this kind of stuff, and it's going to be nice. The day that rolls around when DM's Guild matches the DriveThru side will be my favorite day. So I'm excited about all the stuff you're looking at.
Yeah, when I joined Dungeon Masters Guild, I think it was maybe last fall. One of the first things I did was talk to the community about what sort of features they would like to see. And I created a survey and had everyone prioritize that list that we came up with based on feedback and just based on what I was observing between DriveThruRPG and DM's Guild myself. I'm also was a Dungeon Masters Guild creator, so also my own thoughts and feedback. And so that list has existed, and I'm just working with the tech team to go through and make those changes happen. Of course, we're balancing resources with all of our other sister sites. And with each project, especially sort of these bigger things like porting bundles over, and the feature we're working on right now, a lot of testing happens. So we can, there's, I guess, some complications with how the site is set up. And how publishers are distinguished from community creators. That takes a little bit more finessing than folks might think. So our tech team works real hard to push those features out. Doesn't always go as quickly as we want it to, but they're all happening. There's a bunch of stuff that I've planned for you all.
Well, I'm excited. I really am, because I currently have 150 titles, maybe. And that's because I work, I do collaborations with my main thing that I do is I convert creators' materials into the Fantasy Grounds VTT format. And so, like for example, the second place title right now, Call from the Deep, we're working on getting that done so that there'll also be a Fantasy Grounds. Yeah, very exciting, because that's a really cool, oh my God, it's so cool. I can't wait to play it even. So good. So that's really great to...
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm willing to spoil the feature we're working on right now.
Oh, yes, please.
Breaking news.
I want it breaking news. Oh, here we go, everybody.
So it's in the first phases of testing right now. And in fact, I think it actually has gone back to development again. But we're currently working on bringing over the special discount feature for community creators. And so basically what that means is that you can create a link it could just be like at the normal cost, or whatever discounted cost you'd like, even free. And it creates a special link, and you can track who is making purchases through that link. So I think Dungeon Masters Guild, the community is like really creative with how they use features. So I think that you guys, especially folks who are like creating ads or something, that'll be just a really useful tool for folks.
Yeah, that's very exciting. One thing that I have been personally, I've talked to other creators, and some of them are really good at this. But my weak point is advertising for myself. All I really do is throw my titles up and hope for the best, and I've gotten pretty lucky with that. But I know that there's people that do, Facebook advertising or Twitter or Reddit or even, go on people's podcasts and do commercials for themselves and for their products. And so having a trackable link, that's pretty exciting stuff to be able to because right now you pay some money, make an ad, and you don't. I mean, Twitter and Facebook, I guess you can kind of track that stuff, but really you just don't know.
Yeah,
And, did my sales go up? Well, maybe I'll advertise again. You don't really know. So
anecdotally, I've heard, especially during those initial discussions I mentioned, I heard that some folks in the community will do, I don't know, some sort of push on Facebook, or they'll post a tweet and they'll go to their sales report page and just like keep refreshing it because they know they're going to get activity like right after they've posted something. And so
Right.
they'll just like refresh every few seconds and track those numbers. And so that basically sounds like it sucks. So I'm really hoping the special discount link can help folks so they don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, and I'm such a math nerd. I mean, I think I might have mentioned this to you in an email or two since we've corresponded over the time, but I mean, I literally have every title, how much I've sold, what date it was on, what medal it has, and I mean, and not only that, I have my whoops, let me get that back. I have my earnings for every since January 29th of 2016. I literally have every single day my earnings, how many items I sold, and what my average per. I mean, I'm a math geek with this stuff, and it really motivates me to put in here, like after tonight at 9:00, I'll go type, July 14th, how many I sold, what the dollars was, and then I'll copy this down and see what the thing. But, I've sold 14,353 items as of yesterday. So I get super excited about this. And when you're telling me there's a new feature that has some kind of tracking in it, I think I might have blacked out when you were talking about that. I didn't really remember what you said, but I got super excited because I'm like, it's unbelievable to me how crazy I am with spreadsheets. And I just love all the math of it. And of course, sales and it's just all very exciting. And I've told this story before, and you might have heard this from other creators too, Lysa, but money is good, and I like money, and it's awesome. But what's really nice to hear is people that buy the things from the creators at the DMs Guild, how much it's changed their game and how much fun they're having, and what a great thing it is to have an extra marketplace for people to go buy things from other players and other creators that are out there that are the DMs and the players live, and they're making their own adventures or they're making their own tools. And I'll get a tear in my eye just how I'll get an email or a PM from somebody who said, "Oh, Rob, I bought your codes and they really helped our game and my group loves it and we love you." And that to me is always much more gratifying than any dollar amount that I get. So that keeps creators going. It does, and I'm the biggest DMs Guild fan there is. I love it, not because of what it does for me personally, but also because of the idea of it and the fact that it's out there, and Chris Lindsay's a genius, and he thought of it, and I just can't say enough about it. I mean, I gush. I'll have to stop now because I'll just gush and gush for like 30 more minutes. But I really do love it, and all these two guys that my co-host, they know that I love it, and all the fans that we have on our Twitch channel and on our Discord. Everybody's really happy about just the fact that there is a place for people to create and make their stuff available. It's not like it was years and years ago where if you wanted an adventure, you had to like write into Dragon Magazine and hope they picked you out of, one person a month out of 10,000 people or whatever it was. It just wasn't possible, and it was a pipe dream, and now it's available to anybody. So
yeah, that's really important to me personally. The Dungeon Masters Guild makes publishing and getting your Dungeons and Dragons stuff as accessible as possible, trying to make it even more accessible with changes we're making to the frequently asked questions and other resources for new creators. But I like kind of like breaking down barriers to just sharing your creations.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw this thing in 2016 and I read what it was and I was like, what? This can't be right. They're gonna just let us do what we want, and it was amazing, and it just turned out to be. I mean, it literally changed my life and probably many other people's lives too. Who are, some people have that's what they do now. They just create for the DMs Guild. That's their job, and so they've quit their day job, and that might not be everybody. That might be an exception, but rather than the rule. But just the fact that anybody can make an adventure and put it up and see what people think, and it's really awesome. And actually, along those lines, my next question was, do you have what would be your biggest piece of advice for those people who are thinking about, you hear that all the time, well, maybe I'll create something, or maybe I'll do it. And I would tell the person, just do it and see what people think. What could go wrong? But what would you say would be your biggest piece of advice for those people who are thinking about becoming creators for DM's Guild?
Yeah, I think the hardest part of publishing on Dungeon Masters Guild, just from talking to people, is just actually getting the thing you write published, getting it to a point where you feel like, I am ready to share this with the world, and pushing that post button. And I see a lot that when people talk about wanting to publish on Dungeon Masters Guild, they have these lofty aspirations of creating something sort of like Call of the Deep, like a full campaign, or converting some home game that they had into a campaign that anyone can play, which is wonderful. And I would like for you to do that. But that's what an aspiration for your first thing, when it's already scary publishing something for the first time. I've seen folks get a lot more traction when they'll do something like write a subclass, or create an encounter that's part of a collaborative project that other authors are creating. So there's someone handling layout and editing, and you can kind of learn from them, and the ask from you as a first-time publisher is a little bit less. I find that if you go through and you actually get something published the first time, you are more likely to return and keep creating. So find something. It doesn't have to be something huge. It can be just a few pages, but put your best foot forward doing those few pages. And I think you'll find you'll have a lot more confidence, and you'll learn a lot quickly and be able to iterate.
Yeah, and that's really good advice. Couple things about that. Just myself, when the very first thing I published, I put it up there and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew nothing, and I just made a thing and put it on the DM's Guild. And then I made like a dime, and I checked my royalty report, and I made a dime, and I called my friend. I'm like, oh my God, unbelievable, I made money. And she was like, oh, good for you. And we were so excited about a dime. And then 3 years later, it's gotten better than that. But it's just numbers, and you have to just commit to doing it. Don't be afraid to do it. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to publish something, and somebody might say, oh, this could be better, or change this. But the community is really wonderful. They'll give you review advice, or they'll give you comments to say what they think could make it better. And the best that could happen is that it's fine, and you published a thing, and now go do your second thing. I mean, it's just awesome. But I did talk to Josh. I talked to JVC Perry about Call of the Deep, and he did this one by himself. I mean, I think he commissioned art for it, but he did the whole thing, an adventure from level 1 to 12. It took him a year and a half. And so, yeah, but he's quite experienced, and he's published many titles. And this was his big giant, this was his thing, right? This was he's like, this is going to be my, my opus. And so he said it took him about 2 years, but 18 months of that, he worked on it for a while, and then he quit for 6 months because he had other things he was doing, and then he came back to it. So yeah, this was a giant project, but you can tell when you look at it and you go.
I've only heard so many amazing things.
It is
about this,
crazy, yeah.
And just that I've told, like, the level of production, the quality of this at this adventure, so many people are comparing it to just like a straight up Wizards of the Coast product.
You wouldn't know this wasn't a Wizard. If it was in a hardback book and it said Wizards of the Coast on it, you would believe it. That's how good this thing is. I mean, I've gone through it. It's pretty awesome. And of course, we're making the Fantasy Grounds version, so we're super excited about it. But it is really good. But that just goes to show you, that's probably the best of the best. And the Uncaged titles 1 and 2, those are the popular ones now. And these are all, teams of people that are making this. But you can go on DM's Guild and you can look and you can see, oh, here's a person that made one thing. All they did was, like you said before, they just made a subclass. Really cool. They put it up there for $1 or whatever, and everyone download it and put it in their game. It's just awesome.
Yeah, like I really like Hannah Rose starting out as a Dungeon Masters Guild creator. She's been partnering with people and creating just a subclass. So she partnered with the opera geek, Kelly, and created College of Opera for bards. And she worked with Devin Rue, who's a cartographer, and created a cartographer class. Yeah, that first one there. And again, just a subclass, just a couple pages, but that allowed her to create just a couple pages that are nice and professional with layout. She wasn't like laying out 60 or 100 or 200 pages.
Right.
It could just really focus on one small thing. And Hannah and her partners have seen a lot of success with these products.
Yeah, I mean, and then people go and they rate it, and it's got a really super high rating, and 64 people have rated it. Now so you gotta realize when people buy this, they don't always rate it. So this, I mean, it's a platinum seller, so there's at least 1,000 copies of it out there.
Yeah.
So that's
and
really
that's
super.
Her first title.
Yeah,
really,
that's
really
crazy.
Cool.
I've been publishing for that's another point to make to creators or potential creators, is that I've been publishing for 3.5 years. I have about 150 titles, and the highest title I have is a gold. So you don't have to have a platinum bestseller to do well. If you're prolific, which is what I would consider myself, then you don't have to have anything on the platinum or on the mithril list. But you might get such a fantastic response like Hannah and Kelly did. They put out a thing, $1.99, College of Opera, bam, 1,000 copies at least. Mm-hmm. And so, people shouldn't be afraid, I guess, is my message to people. And I've been preaching this forever. Yeah, Shad Sars, unknown whom. Yeah, that's not very popular. But it is pretty exciting what's happening over there. And I think there's a lot of people who don't even know. That's what I'm trying to do, is even expose that the DM's Guild exists, because I read an article the other day that 40 million people play Dungeons and Dragons, but how many of them know what DM's Guild is? So I try to spread the love.
Likewise, all day, every day.
All day, every day, in my sleep even. So here's a question I wanted to know if you had any insight on. In the beginning, back in 2016, DM's Guild had so right now you can go over here and you can go to format and you can click on virtual tabletop, right? Which is my favorite thing to do. And the virtual tabletop thing used to be a front page item. Way down at the bottom, it was the last thing. Like down here, they had a whole row of it. And then they just took it away. And I sent an email in or to customer service or whatever. This is a couple years ago. And I said, why did you take it away? And they didn't really have a good answer for me. But what they did tell me was that it won't be back. And I was wondering if you know anything about that or why that is.
Honestly, if it was a couple years ago, it's before my time. Yeah. I could make something up, but I don't know. I imagine possibility that, I mean, the front page even now has so many banners. And so like we do, at least on our sister sites, occasionally test like switching out banners, doing some A/B testing, seeing whether that helps or hurts things. It's possible they found that banner on the front page wasn't performing how they wanted it to. But that is 100% speculation.
Yeah, and even though you're speculating, that does make sense. And I've always told people, like sometimes I'll contact your creator and say, hey, would you like that converted to Fantasy Grounds? And they're like, well, I don't know. They're nervous. They think it's going to cut into their sales. And I'm like, no, it's an additional thing. But a lot of people aren't aware of Fantasy Grounds and don't even know about it. So that's why they're initially, and so it might make sense because the average number, like if something is like, let's say Call of the Deep, however many copies that sells, Fantasy Grounds copies sales against that will be like from 5 to 10%. But it's a smaller market. You're dealing with 40 million D&D players, and the Fantasy Grounds market's like 130,000 people. It's really small. But comparatively, it does well. And Fantasy Grounds players, the people that use the software, they love content. They want more and more and more. I mean, I obviously don't have trouble getting the word out to people that it's there, and people do buy it. So yeah, that was just more of a personal inquiry on my part, like why, because I was so excited that it was on a part of the front page, but because it's a smaller market share, they might have decided that it's not worth the space. It's like Walmart, you got to choose what you're going to put on the shelf. So that does make sense. Oh, speaking of VTTs, we noticed recently, I'm sure you know about this, down here is an advertisement for Astral VTT. Did they partner with you guys, or is that just advertising?
So One Bookshelf has partnered with Astral Virtual Tabletop, yes.
And how will that affect the partnership with Fantasy Grounds?
So far, just from what I've heard, or not heard rather, and we're still continuing to work with Fantasy Grounds. Fantasy Grounds is like modules are still available on our site. Astral's set up a little differently, where they don't use like files like your .mod files that like import everything onto the platform. You can like add in like PDFs or something into Astral, and then like build your encounters on it. So it's a little bit different.
Oh, that's interesting. So
Yeah.
so it's not even really the same. You're not even really selling the same thing. You're not selling a mod file. You're selling the ability to use whatever's in a PDF to do their thing. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a different experience. So Astral has some cool things, like you can create like animated backgrounds and certain things where like clickable, like a chest can be clickable. Like you click on it and you see that it pops open and you see the treasure, and you can program those sorts of things into it.
Right.
Which I feel like almost makes it a little bit of like more of like an immersive, almost computer game type experience to it, but it offers something. It's still a virtual tabletop, but it offers something a little different from what Fantasy Grounds is.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear that it's different. Yeah, because a lot of people always ask me, how come you don't have Roll20 stuff on DM's Guild? And there's really two answers. One is DM's Guild doesn't really have a deal with Roll20, but also you can't make, like .mod files don't work with Roll20. You can't make a thing to sell for Roll20 unless you sell it through their specific market. That might be why DM's Guild doesn't deal with them, is because it's really hard to make a thing that you can then download to give somebody to put into Roll20. It's not really a thing. So that's why I was wondering about Astral and how they did it. But if you're able to like copy and paste out of PDFs and put it in the Astral, that's a pretty cool thing for people to be able to do.
Yeah.
I like that. Cool. I haven't seen any. Yeah, the chat's saying Roll20 Marketplace is where you have to do it. I haven't seen anybody ask any questions in there. Have you guys seen any questions?
Just stuff that we've already covered.
Yeah, okay. So let's see.
Prize time?
What is it?
Yeah, prize time.
Oh, should we give away the prize? Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's give away the prize. Here's the prize, everybody. This is what we're going to give away. In honor of Lisa's affiliation with Adventures League, us being woohoo, and us being Fantasy Grounds, we thought we'd give away a copy of the Rakma. And am I saying that right? Rakma?
That's how I say it, so I hope so.
All right. I hope so. So it's a 9th level adventure with 29 action-packed story entries, everybody. There's 8 pre-made encounters, so this would be probably a one-shot that you could run for people. And so I'm going to buy a copy of that. I already own it, but I'm going to buy another copy. And then I will give that away. So let's run the raffle here. We'll make the keyword Lysa. How exciting is that?
Yay!
So Lysa, everybody, once I get it in here, and I will put that we're going to do Rakma, which is all kinds of double R's and double K's and one M.
So I have some questions for Lysa.
Okay.
Lysa with a Y, not an I. Okay, so what are you playing anything currently?
I am currently not in any active campaigns, but desperately waiting for the campaign that I'm in on the D&D channel called Tales from the Mists. That starts up again August 9th, 6 p.m. Every Friday on twitch.tv/D&D. And that's my favorite game, so I'm waiting for that to start up again.
What character do you play on that? Or do you not have a character yet?
Oh, sorry. I think I might have missed the first half of what you were saying, but I do have a character in that. It's the character who is the namesake for my handle on Twitch and Twitter and all the social media places. Her name is Mercy. She is a tiefling storm sorceress and a native of Ravenloft. And I've played her in one of my first D&D campaigns ever, which was a Ravenloft campaign, and then a few other times throughout my personal D&D history, and on another show that was on the D&D Twitch. And now she lives in Tales from the Mist. So if you like spooky gothic horror stuff, you should check out that show.
Nice. And
You said
that
6 p.m. Oh, I was going to ask 6 p.m. Like Eastern time, Central time,
Oh,
Pacific
good question. 6 p.m. Pacific time. And also, if you haven't watched it before, or if you watched some of the first season, but not all of it, you can go to talesfromthemist.com, and that has all the info about our show and all of the videos as well.
Nice.
It's also in the process of being converted to a podcast. Oh, Rob, I'm gonna. Can I type?
It's M-Y, Lisa with a Y, Miss with an I. I got it.
Yeah, and it's Miss plural.
Oh, it's Tales from the Mist. Okay, I'm gonna fix it and put it on the screen here.
Thank you.
Tales from the MIS. So it's Tales from the Dyslexic Island, everybody. That's what it's called. Tales from the Mist. Boom! There it is. Okay, now I'll re-put it in the chat.
I'm excited. Our website's so pretty. That's funny, the Nordic Geek in chat.
Tales from the Mist.
Tales from the Mist. Tales from the Mist type. Ah, that's good. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, let's give away the prize. Who won? The winner is Rusty Inert. Very good. All Rusty, right. I think that's a name. Oh, you're a follower. That's awesome. So congrats to Rusty Inert, if I'm saying that right. I'm gonna put the Discord
Congratulations.
Link. Yes, congratulations. So Rusty Inert, just click on that link and go to my Discord channel. Just send me a PM and say, hey, I won the thing, and I'll make sure you get it after the show tonight. As a matter of fact, I will make a small note of that right over here. Rusty Inert. And then, what was my question? Oh yeah, VTT, why doesn't Fantasy Grounds get more love? Okay, we asked that. Now, of course, aside from the games that you play, I guess we should leave that aside. We wanted to know what your favorite campaign setting is, and I think we were going to confine that to Wizards of the Coast, but you can say anything you want, even if it's outside.
I mean, I kind of have talked about it now already, but oh no, Ravenloft for sure.
Ravenloft, okay.
Big love of Ravenloft. I like the lore. I really like that all the domains have their own flavor and that there's always this really enigmatic Dark Lord who has a story that you get to discover, and that story informs the land and the setting. And I also just really like grim and dark settings in general, because I usually play good characters, heroic characters, and I feel like that's a good backdrop for them to be truly heroic, but also face really difficult moral choices that might stain their souls or push them to grow in some sort of way. I find it super compelling.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really had a good time. I'm old enough to have played I6, way back when in the first edition. And then when Curse of Strahd came out and we were playing that, I both played it and DM'd it, and I thought it was fantastic. I love it because it's such a departure from the norm, right? It's not the same as most other things that you're getting. Even though D&D puts out things in different settings like Chult, and then, like the salt marshes and the seas, and Avernus will be going to hell, but it's all sort of the same pot of D&D, whereas Curse of Strahd seems to be this separate thing off to the side, so I really like it too.
Yeah, Curse of Strahd is a really fun adventure.
Yeah. And Nordic Geek is playing in it, he says too. All right, good. We gave away the prize. Did I give away the prize? I did. I gave away the prize. I just haven't bought it yet. Okay. Let's see. Guys, if you have other questions for Lisa, now is the time. She's here and able to answer. So if you have questions, please type those in the chat and we will get those to her to answer.
Yeah, don't be shy.
Did we go through our list? Was that everything we wanted to ask? Now I can't. I'm bouncing all over. I don't know where I am. What was the spreadsheet?
I have a question for Lisa.
Go for it.
So, what was your first role-playing game experience? Was it Ravenloft or was it something entirely different?
It was not Ravenloft. It was Dungeons and Dragons. I started playing 4 years ago now, 4 years and a month ago. And it was when I was watching Will Wheaton's Tabletop, and I'd watched all of those videos. And so my next recommended video on YouTube was Critical Role, and I was like, "What is this 4-hour thing? That's like longer than a movie. That's 2 movies." But I thought I'd watch it. And it was the first episode, and I was skeptical at first. Um, but then once I started watching them play, it looked so fun. And I'd wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons when I was younger, like middle school or high school maybe, but I didn't know anyone who played. And when I tried rules, it just seemed really complicated. I was like, it's too much to figure out myself. Um, and but after watching Critical Role, I kind of picked up the rules just from watching. I've really identified with some of the players and their play style. And so I went to my friendly local game store and I signed up for a game. And my first game was a Pirates versus Navy game, where it had been 2 separate games. And then I guess their last time playing, they had done like a party versus party thing, and it broke both of their ships because like someone fired cannons and they hit the other ship where whatever, both boats exploded and magically combined into one. So now the pirates and navy had to play together. So I joined the pirate side. And I just remember, I think I picked up right when the ships combined together. And so there was this little section where the dungeon master went around and everyone had to describe what their character was doing just to survive this shipwreck and get to the new ship. And I remember being so nervous because I was like, oh no, they're going around the room one by one. So I can't just listen. They're definitely going to ask me to describe something. And it came up and I was so nervous and I was just like, I jump into the water and I try to find something to like hold on to. And they had me roll and I found like a little thing and I made a raft. And it was just like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. I love this. And I like immediately signed up for like every game they had in the store that I could
That's
join.
cool.
That's funny. Boffrin wanted to know, Lisa, have you ever tried Zweihander or Warhammer Fantasy?
I do not know what those are, except for isn't a Zweihander like a type of sword?
I don't know because I
Yeah.
thought he was asking me the question because he addressed it to me,
Oh,
and I
okay.
don't know either. I have no idea.
I know of Warhammer, but I've not played it. But I have played a lot of different RPGs since, especially through Don't Split the Podcast Network. I used to guest on their Don't Split the Podcast Network Presents podcast while it was still going, and they would always try different games. So I have a deep love for all RPGs.
That's funny.
Oh, that
We were talking about advertising earlier, and I just talked to Intercasso a little while ago, and I'm actually going to advertise on Don't Split the Podcast Network for me.
Yeah, that's a great one.
For my services, for, like, hey, DM's Guild creators, get a hold of Rob, let him do your Fantasy Grounds conversion.
Yeah, that'd be great for for any of the podcasts really, but like Tabletop Babble would be really good.
Yeah, I've been on
listen to that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been on that show with him before, and I told him, I said, because he's like, well, we have these 5 podcasts, and I said, well, anyone but the Star Wars would probably be appropriate.
Oh, I pronounced it wrong. It's Zweihander.
Oh, Zweihander.
Yeah, it feels sort of like does that have German roots? I don't know. I feel like I should know that because Mercy has a German accent, actually.
There is an inordinate amount of German role-playing games, by the way. I just noticed, like, in the last year. It's Germanic, he says, yeah. Okay, guys, did I miss any other questions? I know, Fury, I know you watch that chat like a hawk. Did I miss anything else?
What is the weirdest thing you have seen on Dungeon Masters Guild?
Oh, what's the weirdest thing? What's the weirdest thing you've seen? You've seen it all.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what the weirdest thing would be. I don't know. We get lots of fun and funky things. Like you can be an ooze. There's an ooze race now.
Oh, nice. I
like that
haven't
there was
heard
like,
of that.
yeah. The cover is really cute, at least the one that it might be called. If you look up Oozes plural, maybe it'll show up.
Look up what oozes what?
Oozes with an S.
Oh, oozes. Updated oozes.
I'm not seeing it, so it must have some sort of cutesy name. But the cover has 3 little gooey people on the front. I thought
That's
the
funny.
otter race was really interesting. I really want to be an otter
Yeah.
now. Oh, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
we-
molded.
we did the otter race for Fantasy Grounds too. Oh my god, I have to have this. See, that's a problem too. I have a Kickstarter and a DM's Guild problem. I see something, I just buy it. I have so much stuff that I haven't even opened it yet. Like, it's downloaded in the zip file with a number on it. I have to go open it up to see what it is. Oh man, I just had a thought. What was we were talking about? So the strangest thing that I've seen on the DM's Guild is something that's not on the DM's Guild. We were running, I run a game for new players called Pickup Games, and it used to be called Salvage Encounters, and that's anybody can just show up and play. It doesn't mean you can be anybody. Well, you have to be 18, but it doesn't matter what your level of experience is. And it's more combat-based now, but when we started it a couple years ago, it was story-based. And we ended up just being 14-year-olds and being crazy and stupid, and we created a brothel. And I wrote a module for it. And I actually went on the Facebook group, and McElroy jumped in. I said, "Can I publish this?" And he jumped in and was like, "Absolutely not." Yeah, because if you're publishing something on the DM's Guild or Drive Thru RGB, there is a tick mark that says adult. And I thought, oh, good. Well, that's what that means. I'll just tick that and publish it. But that's not what that means. And so it's got a bunch of crazy, very inappropriate, like, you can only imagine the things that you can pay for in a D&D brothel and what they mean and what they do and what your bonuses are when you get it. And it's so hilarious to us, but yeah, I couldn't publish it, so that's the weirdest thing that never made it to the DM's Guild that I know about.
Goodness gracious.
Publish it. They still say no, even now.
Even now.
Yeah, Lisa's saying no, so we can't, I'm not even going to say the names. It's so funny. Let's see. 1E books, DM's Guild. Let's see. What am I missing any in there? The questions? Oh, Ray Sentient is yet.
I have another one for Lisa.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Lisa. Say what you're going to say, and then I'll ask.
No, ask your question.
Have you ever used Fantasy Grounds yourself?
I've only used Fantasy Grounds as part of a Star Trek game that I was on for Encounter Roleplay. And I think we mostly used it for dice rolling, but I've not had the pleasure of seeing what a .mod file actually does.
Okay. Well, if you ever want that training, you know where to go. Fantasy Grounds College.
Yeah.
That's kind of a plug and a question.
That's
And
so
if you wanna-
funny. As a plug in a question, my first game in Fantasy Grounds, when I downloaded it and then found a group to play with, was a Star Trek game in the Savage Worlds rule set. And this was in 2015. And then I hadn't played Savage Worlds before, nor had I used Fantasy Grounds. It was the very first thing I did. And then there was Exploding Dice in Savage Worlds, and it was Star Trek, and I was like, oh my god. And then now I can't. Every day I use Fantasy Grounds. Even if I don't use it, I use it. I open it and look at it and do something. It's insane. All right, everybody. More questions. Last call for questions.
As we wait for questions, I have another thing that is breaking news that I will share.
Yes, breaking news by all means.
Yeah. So I will be talking about this more on the Dungeon Masters Guild social media pages. That's, I guess we'll do that all at the end. But starting in August, the third Friday of each month, I will be hosting Dungeon Masters Guild Design Dash on twitch.tv/DND. In that Friday 11 a.m. Pacific time slot. And so this is what it's conceived as, and we'll see what will actually happen. Project Runway meets D&D design. I'm inviting 3 designers for each episode, and they get the challenge at the top of the episode, and then they have 15 minutes to design an encounter or maybe a couple features of a subclass or whatever the challenge is. They'll probably usually be silly. Like maybe the first one could be like design an encounter with abyssal dragons. And then they have 15 minutes. And while they're scrambling and designing and doing what they do, myself and a host, maybe Matt, maybe one of the guild adepts, will chat about Dungeon Masters Guild news. And then after that 15 minutes, each of the designers gets to share what they created and what their process was creating it versus what their process might be if they were doing it in a sane amount of time. I think that'll be a really fun way to spotlight some of the creators.
That sounds really cool. I love the whole aspect of the pressure. Like, okay, 15 minutes, go. Oh no.
Yeah, and it's just fun and silly, and I want to incorporate social media in some way. Either having our social community help come up with the challenges, or maybe they vote on their favorites. Like the 2 weeks after, and the person who wins like gets to come back the next episode or something. I don't want there to be like a loser. Like I don't want someone to be eliminated. But I just think it just sounds like fun, and it might be like a heck of a mess.
Yeah, it sounds.
I'm excited to see what happens.
That'll be fun. That's a great idea. Did you just think of that? Does that just come to you?
Well, I've been wanting to do a Dungeon Masters Guild talk show of some sort on the D&D channel. I'm always trying to get Dungeon Masters Guild just to the forefront of just anyone interested in D&D stuff. So like we have segments like every D&D news now talks about Dungeon Masters Guild and does a product feature, and it's inserted in other little places like that. But I was kind of just in the office chatting with Bart Carroll, and we were going back and forth with ideas, and this is kind of what emerged from that discussion. I do find I like collaborating with folks on ideas. I feel like the result is always better.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Lysa, I've been bugging Rob about this for about a year, but one of my ideas was to get an author or something like that on the DMs Guild, and having some kind of stream or podcast where we showcase their product, but we're actually playing it, and it kind of gives them exposure, just like you would with the official Wizards of the Coast product. And being that it's a Wizard of the Coast sponsored website, I don't think it would directly compete with the IP. And I think that you could use Fantasy Grounds to kind of show it, and then have that maybe once a month you do the same thing, you vote, and then you have that player or the author actually participate or run the adventure that they're in. And at the end of the show, you could advertise and put links, and it kind of pumps up the DMs Guild, but it also pumps up the community and the people involved.
I think that would be awesome. And it would also be a really cool way to feature Fantasy Grounds as a virtual tabletop platform and make folks aware about Dungeon Masters Guild and Fantasy Grounds. I love shows that incorporate the authors and creators, like Mistress of Modules, which is a show on the Nerd Immersion channel, which actually I think is right now. I can hear my roommate on it. I don't know if you guys can. But she will have a bunch of people from the community, usually at least one creator designer, running through a module. And then the next episode or the next series of episodes, she'll run a module from the creator from the previous one. But I like your idea of having the creator kind of like planted and running through their own adventure and getting to experience how someone else runs it. That's a really fun twist.
Yep.
Cool. Man, there's so much going on. Holy crap. I learned I didn't even know stuff that was happening that Lisa's telling us about. All right, well, so good. Let's make it happen. So good. So let's let everybody know. I've got Lisa's Twitter page up here, which basically has everything, every place you can find her.
Yeah, check out that pinned tweet.
Yeah, right? Pinned tweet. There it is. That's all. Oh, and you're going to be at all these. Oh, you're going to PAX West. I went there last year. I won't be going this year. Boo. So, Merciful DM on Twitter, you guys. Also, check out Behold Her podcast, which is part of the Don't Split the Podcast network. If you're interested in being a creator for the DMs Guild and you're going to be doing that, you definitely need to get over to the creators group on Facebook, which is where most of the news and most of the exciting stuff she's been talking about and will tell us about in the future will come out. Here's the website for the show, Tales of the Mists. No A. There's no A, but there is an S. talesofthemist.com. And then of course DM's Guild is where it's all happening. That's where my whole life is. I just have this page up, and I go to my account like you were talking about earlier, Lisa, and I refresh it every 13 seconds because I can't help it. Did I sell something? Okay, what about now? What about now? What about now? That's what I do. So before we go, Lisa, any final words you would like to impart to the crowd?
No, just, well, if you are thinking of creating, but have questions, or you are a creator with a question, I am always available to you when I'm checking my email. And so that is Lysa, spelled with a Y, Lysa, at onebookshelf.com.
Right, cool. Feared Fate, any final words from you?
No, but thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And I kind of want to catch your podcast, but it interferes with the game I'm in, so I'm like super sad. But you said all on the website that Rob misspelled 100 times.
I think it was twice.
Rounding
So
up.
I definitely want to see that.
Okay, Liron, any final words, sir?
Just really, it's pleasure to have you on here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do in the future with the DMs Guild and with the community.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed our chat.
Me too. Thank you so much, Lisa, for being here. Guys, if you're watching us next week, we will be making a Fantasy Grounds extension live, start to finish, scratch, on the show next week. Once again, thanks to our special guest, Lysa Penrose. Check her out in all of her social media places and podcasts and Twitch streams that she's in. And thank all of you for joining us on the show, and congrats to the prize winner. And until next time, good gaming, everyone.